Guests in my podcast are like my coffee, strong, flavorful, and they always brighten my day. We have amazing conversations over coffee. We cover everything from growth to inspiring communities, empowering customers, and sharing exceptional leadership moments. In this season, we're hosting incredible leaders whose journeys inspired me to keep growing and learning every day. I'm Imane, and I welcome you to my podcast, Coffee with Me, Leaders of Change. Hello, everyone, and welcome to my podcast. Today, I'm delighted to have with me Tawana Murphy Burnett. Tawana is head of the global client and agency for APAC at Meta, where she and her team advise CMOs, business leaders, and agency partners on how best to use mobile advertising and commerce solutions to accelerate the growth of their brands. As part of her role at Meta, Tawana moved from New York to Singapore in 2019, together with her husband and daughter. Over the years, Tawana has served on numerous diversity and leadership councils focused on mentoring women and elevating the discussion on women in leadership. She currently serves as co-lead for the Singapore Inclusion Council at Meta and is a board member for the IAB Southeast Asia and India. As you can tell, there is so much to discuss with Tawana, and I cannot wait to get started. Welcome, Tawana.
Thank you so much.
Let's take a seat.
All right.
So Tawana, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
It's absolute pleasure. We've met in a panel at Dell, and as soon as I heard you speaking and sharing your stories, I was like, I need her in my podcast. I need to hear more about her and what she brings to the table.
Well, thank you. You were an incredible moderator, and we had a good time.
We did. We did have a great time. I read in your LinkedIn that you always like to reflect back on the year past and see your greatest learnings, your achievements, and also how you would implement them in the new year. So I'm super curious about 2023 and what you learned during that year.
Yeah, well, thanks for picking up on that. 2023 was hard for many reasons, and I picked up 3 new leadership lessons in 2023 that I'm still thinking about. So the first one is around the value of clarity. And the way that it came to me, someone talked about clarity is care. Yes. You know, providing clarity to whether it's an individual contributor on your team, or any of the relationships you have, just having that clarity, there's a real value and a premium that's put upon it. So the challenge of 2023 is it was the year of efficiency. There were a lot of restructures, particularly in big tech. You and I would know about that.
Yes, ma'am.
And that made the ability as a leader to control and provide certainty almost impossible. What I think the lesson for me was just the depth of importance of it and how you help people to navigate when that is not there. So it was understanding the value of it, but also then how to help people navigate through that. And there was a lot of conversation, I think, in 22 about resilience, but it got sort of refined as this notion of clarity and how to work with that. The second one for me was leading how others want to be led versus from your own place of personal comfort. And what I mean by that, so we just talked about clarity. I am really comfortable with ambiguity. And I actually enjoy when there's opportunity to do something new and we need to think about it and it's a blank canvas. But I came to appreciate that people on my team really wanted to have more structure because of that lack of clarity. There was more structure, the importance of rhythm of business, operational rigor, really providing these formal communication vehicles where information could be shared more often. And then the last one is how to create brave space. And this is one that's like it's a continuing lesson. Because there's so much research. I think Google did some research with managers around psychological safety. Correct. And probably a decade, I might have that wrong, but for a number of years now, that's made it into the lexicon for us as managers that we need to provide psychological safety. And I attended a session in 23 with some other leaders, and one in particular who also happened to be at Google said that psychological safety is important, but what's more important is the ability to build brave space, because the reality of the world that we live in, it's much more complex. And for all the other things that we've said, what we can commit to is working through things together and providing the space for conversation and dialogue around what's hard is even more important. So those are a few things.
I love it. I love it. And in the tech space, I think we shared a lot of experiences when it comes to optimization and efficiency, and how you try and thrive to be clear and provide clarity in an ambiguous, uncertain space. And then it brings that what you can control and you cannot control, and the team wants to see the things that they can control, which is operational excellence and rigor,
Yes.
because they cannot control the uncertainty
That's right.
of the situation of 2023. Again, bringing it to being brave and speaking up and sharing that vulnerability as well.
Yeah.
To say, I myself do not know.
That's right. That part. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. If I knew, I would have loved to share with you, because I want to give you that clarity.
Yeah.
I love what you said about 2023, and oh my God, I relate to all of them, the three of them. Now, going to you personally and talking about bravery. 2019, you pack your family, kids, husband, everybody, move from the US all the way to Asia.
Yeah.
Wow. And why?
Wow, and why?
Wow, and why?
So thank you for that question, because it does give me a chance, I think, to tell the story. Sometimes when I walk in a room and I'm here in Asia and people will say, are you visiting? And, when I tell them I live in Singapore and I've been here now for almost 5 years, we've just celebrated Lunar New Year and I'm into all the things, right, here in Asia. But the truth of it is, there's a couple of parts to this. The first is,
I'm here for all parts.
Okay, let's see if I can be eloquent enough with it. I think the truth is first rooted in the fact that I often don't overthink these big moments, right? So I hear other people tell me, wow, that's so brave, or that was such a big deal. Now, of course, moving your family, I mean, we literally had like 19 suitcases that we loaded up on the plane to get over. So logistically, yes, it's a big deal. And, getting yourself settled into a new country. Our daughter was 11 at the time, in sixth grade, I believe, for U.S. schools. And, my husband also, we having to decide how we were going to manage our lives in this new world. I was coming for work. So there were a lot of things that you could look at and go, oh, those are really big changes. The truth is, though, as I often do, I threw my hat over the wall. And I learned that in a fast forward course. It was a leadership course that I had taken while at Meta back in New York. And, this idea of understanding the things that you want for yourself, and then how do you kind of move yourself forward without the overthinking.
Yes.
In this case, I had to go get that hat that I threw over the wall. And I think the why is because, so I'm the eldest of 3 children. And I belong to a multi-generation of women who are also the eldest. And it's in our DNA. The idea of being first, the idea of trailblazing. When you sit down and think about it and you have a conversation like this and you reflect on it, it does feel like a whoa. It does feel like, wow, here I am, as a Black woman from Brooklyn, originally born, and raised in New York, and then sitting here with you in Singapore, talking about business and leadership. It can feel like a wow, but I hope it normalizes for others the idea that leadership and going after big dreams and doing important work, it should be normal for anyone to pursue, if that is of interest and that meets their ambition and their goals.
It should be normal to throw your hat and go get it.
That's right.
We need to normalize that. Just
Yeah.
throw your hat, don't
Yeah.
overthink it, and go and get it.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something else that we discussed earlier. And I loved your honesty and transparency when you came and asked me, what's your podcast all about? Is it
Yeah.
about diversity and inclusion?
Right.
How do you select your audience? And my point to you was, I look for role models. I look for leaders of change. I look for people that the audience will look up to them and say, if they can, I can.
Mhm.
Not necessarily D&I leaders, but D&I in all the diversity of leadership and business. And you shared something that was really interesting, which is when you go to an event or you have a seat in the table, they automatically expect you to be the D&I lead of the company. But otherwise, you are leading a business.
Yeah, 100% of the time. I mean, one of the reasons that I've embraced this idea of brave space is because I realize that when I show up, for some reason, it gives permission to others to think differently. All of a sudden, it's like there is a physical difference, a
Wow.
physical shift that happens in the room. And there were times when I resented that. And there were times when I felt sort of like undue responsibility because I show up and look like this every day, right? And
This is
so
me.
is this normal? There's no dun da da, there's none of that when I get up in the morning. It's just a human, it's me, it's Tawana. And yet for other people, it means something when I'm in a particular seat that is a business conversation. And I applaud people who, my current boss, my mentors, people who actually created the opportunity for me to be here, that they would offer that seat. And I think they start to understand that's what it means, allyship, that's what allyship means. That's what it means to be an inclusive leader, that you want to have more voices in the room. If we're talking about things that are relevant for people, whether it's our products, our solutions, you need people in the room who represent the products and solutions that are used. Now, I happen to be a champion of women. I happen to be a champion of people of color and people who need their voices heard because of my own lived experience. But I am representing the total business. And I think that's important for everyone, not just for Black women leaders, not just for women who are leaders, wherever we are in the world. It's an important part of being a leader today.
I love it. I love it. And as a minority in tech or woman in tech, we thrive to inspire and role model to women. There are so many men who ping me on DMs in LinkedIn and say, you are an inspiration to us.
I love
So
it.
it's not only women. I
Yes.
think what we thrive is inspiring everyone.
Yes.
Now, men also need and look and strive for inspirations and role models.
Well, you know what I learned? Partially motivated by their daughters.
Oh, that is so cute.
And
That is so cute.
when I think about the relationship that my husband has with our daughter, I see it. When I think about the relationship that I have with my dad, and when I've sat on, to your point, International Women's Day, I distinctly remember my first panel here in Asia, and it was with a bank. And it was a woman, a C-suite leader who invited me and another woman to be on a panel. And the entire audience, aside from maybe one or two, were men. And as we got into the conversation, because they were leaned in, and I thought, knowing the person who invited me, I thought, okay, she's really coerced all these men to join in this conversation, right? She's like, you're going to show up, you're going to show up. But as they started talking, they talked about their daughters and what they wanted to see that would be different. And I'm here for that. I am here for the motivation that says I'm going to create a seat for Tawana so that there's a seat for my daughter and her friends and the next person and the next leader in tech, because we value what they bring to the table. So, yeah.
I love it. I didn't think of it that way, but that's so incredible and so true.
Yeah.
And so true.
And powerful, right?
Yes.
And you can't manufacture that. So you get to the heart of what's important to someone, and there's the motivation. It just shows up, and there's nothing that you need to do about that.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And you speak so eloquently about Asia, and you've been here for 5 years, and I see you fully immersed in the culture here. Are there any differences that you've seen between the US and Asia when it comes to leadership, when it comes to D&I and belonging, or in general, having spent 5 years here?
Yeah, there's so much. And I appreciate that feedback, because it isn't in earnest. My decision to be here was about learning. I was drawn to the energy, to the business energy, the way that commerce in particular. So before COVID, we may all remember there was this big shift that happened. Southeast Asia really experienced a tremendous shift of people that came online and started buying things for the first time. And there's an infrastructure here that is so different. The banking infrastructure, for example, when you think about WhatsApp, when you think about Grab, delivery services, the way of living life is, it has a freshness to it, and it has an energy, and it has a vibe that feels very different from some of the structures that are well established in Western society. So for me, it was the opportunity to understand, like, what's underneath that, what's under. And a part of it is, look, we know 2/3 of the population live here. We know that Southeast Asia is the third fastest growing. We know that India has just tremendous amount of opportunity, GDP growth.
Yes.
I could go on and on. Let's talk about K-pop. We can talk about it all, right?
Yes, yes.
And so
you're preaching to the converts.
For many of us, as we talked about with, just leadership, just that geographic footprint here is amazing. It's vast, and it's exciting. And I'm still learning, but yes, it's a wild, exciting ride.
And it's so vibrant, so diverse.
Yes.
You learn every single day.
100%.
It's just amazing. And you brought your daughter at 11 years old. She's 15 now.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to your daughter?
Oh, I think the cliche is we want to be citizens of the world. What I would say happened for my family, and what I want for our daughter, is that gravitational shift that happened when we re-anchored ourselves in a different part of the world. And we understood that the importance of connecting with people wherever you are is a real life lesson, right? It's biologically important for us as humans. That's how we're wired. And it's important for business. It's important to understand how to relate with others. And so finding yourself anywhere that you see yourself, right? It can be anywhere. And sometimes you have to create that. Sometimes you have to create the community when you don't see yourself there. I talk about how I walk into rooms and people will say, well, I'm the lonely only, or I get on the video conference and there are no other people who look like me. There are no other women on this call. There's no other Black woman who's showing up for my daughter. Sometimes in her classes, she goes in and it's just her. And I would remind her the same thing that I remind myself, is that I'm walking in with 10,000 women or more behind me who are not only cheering me on, but I am representing that space and hopefully widening the door. So I would encourage her to think of herself as a whole person, able to connect and relate to a full and vibrant world, not just one little piece of the planet or one little piece of an experience.
I love it. I love it. Oh my God. We can talk forever. I love it. I love it. Last question. What 2024 is for you? What's your aspirations and inspirations for this year? Having said that, 2023 was a tough one.
Yeah. Well, it's the year of the dragon.
Yes.
So the first thing that I learned is it's the only mythical creature of the Chinese zodiac. And so the first thing that I'm excited about is a little bit of luck, a little bit of okay, we have built up resilience. And when you pair that with a bit of the good uncertainty. And when you pair that with collective winning, so collective winning is what I hope for, because right now we have experienced winners and losers in 2023, whether it's because of war, whether it's because of macroeconomic factors, whether it's even within industries, winners and losers. We talk about emerging tech. We were just talking about AI, right? There is opportunity right now. I believe it so strongly. There's opportunity for collective winning and collective performance this year. And I hope it happens. I hope it happens at the individual level. I hope it happens at the community level, for businesses, for teams, for countries. And with so many elections that are on the horizon around the world this year, I think there's something like 200 different, we just had a couple in this region that just happened. So I am hoping for the collective wins and a little bit of luck.
I hope for that too. It was incredible having you in the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much, Imane. It's so great to be with you.
Thank you.
I'm very impressed by what's happening here in this building, but I'm very impressed by what you are doing to spotlight leadership.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you everyone for watching. See you next time.